What's going on, everyone? Today, 75% of the S&P 500 closed up in the green today, and as we know, we only have one more trading day left of the week, and it's set to be honestly a lot more exciting than I originally expected it to be, as UNH stock is moving massively right now. This stock is falling out of the heavens. It's down by over 50% this month. It lost over $300 billion of its $600 billion market cap, and this stock is moving massively. At the same time, we had some news from Walmart executives that a lot of people aren't going to be too happy to hear about, as they said that they're going to start raising prices very soon because of this whole tariff situation. On top of that, Coinbase is now getting investigated by the SEC and took quite the hit today. And then on top of that, we have a $1.2 million big money trade today that you won't want to miss. We have a lot to cover, so definitely make sure to stick with us all the way until the end. But besides that, Tom, let's get right to it.
Yeah, the SPY actually had a pretty good day today, closing up 0.49%. I will say it could have been better. It could have broke above the previous high a little bit more, as we only broke 589 a little bit, getting up towards 591. So a nice little $2 run, but from open today, the SPY did have pretty positive price action. As we go back to the heat map, the majority of the S&P 500 was in the green. I will say the larger tech stocks took a bit of a cool down today, as we can see a lot of them pulled back, but the rest of the S&P 500 really made up for that lackluster price action. Mike, as we look at like some historical data, looking at like what the SPY normally does here in the short term, we can see that in post-election years, the market really does like the bottom around the beginning of April, and then we really like to rip through May into June, and as we get to July, there's usually a little bit of a slowdown. So we really are like in this post-election year time frame right now where we do see a lot of bullish price action start to come into play, and that's definitely something to look at here as we start to close May out and we start to look at, let's just say, the overall market's price action over the past month to couple of weeks, because there's just been such bullish price action and we're continuing to see amazing breakouts here.
No doubt, and I'll have to say, with as crazy as 2025 has been, I'm a little bit surprised with how closely this year is following like historical like average trends that we normally see in post-election years. It's very interesting, and it is nice to see that we are at new recent highs. The market closed strongly today as well, and we are seeing the trend of higher lows continue, so very good to see.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of bullishness out of the overall market and a lot of tech stocks, but there's definitely one stock that has not been seeing any bullish price action lately, and that is ticker symbol UNH. UNH tanked down today, closed down another 10%, as it looks like there's going to be a DOJ probe and investigation into them for Medicare fraud. So that is a pretty big deal for them. But as we know, there's been a lot of issues with UnitedHealth. Their previous CEO got shot and killed in December of last year. Their new CEO just stepped down and they took guidance away. And overall, we can tell that this stock is down a lot, Mike. It's down over 50% here in just 1 month, which is pretty insane to say for such a large company, right? United Healthcare is a huge insurance business, and, you know, for something like this to fall down 50% within 1 month is definitely extremely telling.
Yeah, it truly is historic. Right now, UNH is at 5-year lows. They went from being in the top 15 largest public companies in the world, and now they don't even make the top 50 list. So this is truly insane. I saw that there was some trader that really took advantage of this sell-off over the past few days. As you can see from this post by Unusual Whales here, on Tuesday, a trader put $25 million into the 300 strike put options that expire on September 19th, and that trader is now up $80 million just a few days later. So that was pretty crazy to see. But I guess looking more at UNH stock right now, Tom, it is at a crucial point. Like, it's down 11% on the day. It did recover for like most of the market today, though, and a lot of people are looking at this one and asking, what's next?
Yeah, and then in the short term, we're seeing a lot of good recovery here out of this stock. Like you said, it did close down still 10%. It could have closed down a lot worse. Like from yesterday's close down to the low of day today, it was actually down around like 19 to 20%. So that's a pretty big number. But whenever I look at this stock into tomorrow, there's a pretty big resistance coming up right around 280 to 285. So this is definitely going to be an area that I watch for. If we see UNH, let's say, reject off of 280 to 285, and we start to see a good pullback back to the downside tomorrow, that's where I think we could see a lot more bearish price action, and you can maybe take advantage of some put opportunities. I know quite a few traders that ended up banking on puts today as it started to tank down and open, and those put premiums ended up exploding because that was an insane move as they closed up around $310 last night and fell all the way down under $250 today. That is quite the drop. So I'm sure a lot of people are also going to be watching that low of day today around 250. Just realize that this stock is extremely volatile. It is in play. And there's one thing that really makes me even more bearish about this is that Jim Cramer even said to buy this stock over the past couple days. He said that he would be okay starting a position at $400. Oh my gosh, this stock has already fallen down to $250 since he said that.
Yeah, so UNH definitely is a wild situation. Realistically, no one knows where this stock will bottom, and there are multiple ways to capitalize off of a situation like this. If you're a short-term scalper, of course, feel free to continue to ride this bear trend, but at the same time, if you're someone who, maybe has a longer term outlook, like let's say for like a longer term sense, there might be some good dip buy opportunities coming up at some point in the future, regardless of whether you're trading this stock in the ultra short term or in the long term or somewhere in the medium term. You have to be extremely flexible with a situation like this. This type of drop is historic. No one knows the bottom, but we know the stock is going to trend strongly. So you have to have an open mind. You have to stay flexible, keep those stop losses in place, and keep riding those strong trends.
Yeah, there's been a lot of crazy moves in the short term. UNH, of course, to the downside, 10.93% today. I just cannot believe the massive amount of gap downs that this stock has been seeing in the short term. It is definitely mind-blowing. But Jerome Powell was set to speak today, and it wasn't an FOMC meeting or a press conference or anything like that, but he ended up giving some pretty big economic insights. He ended up saying that higher long-term rates could be in store for us as supply shocks are coming into play. And I know Jerome Powell has been pretty worried about this in the short term. Obviously, the Fed has to try to teeter-totter here with inflation and with the overall jobs numbers and the overall economy. So it's pretty tough here, Mike, for Jerome Powell. He's going to have a very tough job over the next couple months to see what they can do with all these supply shocks. But I know Walmart actually had some news today that is looking pretty bad as far as supply goes.
Oh boy. So yeah, looking deeper into this, basically Walmart reported earnings today, and a couple of their executives basically said that we are going to see price hikes towards the end of this month, and then certainly much more in June. That came from the chief financial officer at Walmart, John Rainey, and then he also said that we're going to work hard to keep prices low, but it's unavoidable that you're going to see some prices go up on certain items. And then their CEO even commented and said that we aren't able to absorb all of the pressure given just the reality of narrow retail margins. And when you look at a company like Walmart, who goes a lot based off of volume, considering that they have more annual revenue than any other company in the world, and their net profit margin is only around 3%. When you have high tariffs, there's only so much you can do. The stock really liked this news today, and I think that there are a couple of things to take away from this. Number one, when you look at Walmart, I think that they will be a relatively resilient player if this tariff situation definitely causes hurt with other companies, as it's hard for people to just stop shopping at Walmart. And at the same time, they're also navigating this tariff situation in a pretty good way, where they're trying to absorb some of the costs, but at the same time, they're not afraid to pass on those costs to the consumer as well, which definitely helps their earnings.
Yeah, and I know Costco is going to be reporting earnings at the end of May as well, and that's going to give us even more insights. If they come out and then they say, hey, we're doing the same thing as Walmart, we might have to end up raising prices as well. That could be something that we see kind of maybe reaffirm this whole situation. But this is definitely huge here with Walmart in the short term. Whenever I look at Walmart, Mike, on the daily chart, I do see that it's getting pretty close to a key resistance around $100. That is something that I'm going to watch for here. It did end up having a pretty good recovery today, but obviously sold off pretty hard early on in the morning as these earnings were announced. But Mike, I know Coinbase was pretty insane today as well. They ended up dipping down 7.2%. We talked about this one joining the S&P 500 just a day or two ago, and now they came out with some news today that there's, guess what, an SEC investigation. So pretty rough to see here. The SEC is going to be probing Coinbase over number misstatement concerns. It looks like in the past, Coinbase used to report it's kind of funny. They reported their users in a very weird way, and they ended up saying that they had 100 million users at one point. Now that's kind of coming back to bite them a little bit. Now the way that they do verified users is anybody who verified their email or phone number with us was counted in that. So it's not necessarily like monthly transacting users like the number that they give now. So the SEC is starting to investigate them a little bit into this situation, and it did put a dampening into Coinbase's run. Whenever companies get added into the S&P, they generally get some good price action. We've been seeing Coinbase gap up and move higher in the short term, but this was definitely kind of a blow to that rally.
Yeah, they were crushing it throughout most of this week, but like you said, this recent news definitely hurts them quite a bit, and that intraday price action was rough when this news came out. Looking at this stock in a shorter term sense, Tom, like what are like the useful levels we should look at it from like a charting standpoint?
One level that I'm really watching for with Coinbase in the short term is $240. This has to be on the radar in the short term. If we get a good breakdown of this, I think we could see a pretty good move to the downside. If there is a good hold of 240, don't be afraid to try to trade it back up if we do get some bullish price action come in. But if $240 breaks, definitely watch it down. We can see on Bookmap, this was a huge buy wall today. And whenever we got that massive intraday sell-off because of this bad news, we ended up seeing it stop right around that 240 buy wall. So if we do see some selling underneath 240, that's where I'll get a lot more bearish.
All right, so 240 is the bounce or break level, and like you pointed out, there is a lot of activity on the Bookmap level at this point as well. There's a lot of buyers already stacked up there, so definitely keep a close eye on this. But another thing that we definitely have to point out is the schedule and earnings calendar for the rest of this week. We can see from a schedule standpoint, things are slowing down a little bit, but we do have some building permits and housing starts data set to release 1 hour before market open tomorrow, so definitely keep that on watch. And then from an earnings side of things, I would say the week is pretty much over.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I don't know what CDRO Flowers is. If you guys are into that, definitely check that out. RBC bearings, but no, nonetheless, pretty much no names tomorrow on that side of the things, Mike. So that kind of leaves us just to focus on some good plays and price action for tomorrow. And I think that's really ultimately what traders care about the most.
Awesome. So let's start off with SPY then. So it's at its high of week. What are the key levels to watch for tomorrow in both directions, and what are you seeing on the charts?
Yeah, it seems like every $1 level here, the SPY has a reaction. It was funny today. It bounced off 589. It passed that. It bounced off 590. It passed that. It bounced off 591. So it's kind of funny. We're seeing SPY get pretty choppy intraday. If it can break that high of day today around 591, that would be a pretty good sign. I would love to see a 592 break, though, as I see that as next major resistance, along with 595 before we get towards a 598 and $600. I do think that over the next couple weeks, if SPY continues to be bullish, $600 will be a level that comes into play. We're only $10 away from there, so definitely keep those resistances on watch. The main thing that I want to see tomorrow is a good hold of this 589 support. We can see the SPY had a double top here this week before finally breaking out here today. Now, it actually held this as support around the end of day today and closed up around the high of day. So that was a really good sign into close, and I just want to see 589 hold. If we do see like a breakdown with SPY and it breaks under 589 and kind of confirms, I would not be surprised to see more of a pullback come into play. But that's kind of the game plan for tomorrow, is like, can we hold 589 and then finally break that high of day?
Yeah, that would be great, and it's definitely going to be an exciting end to the week. The market has been crushing it. We have some key levels above and below right now, so that will be exciting. And of course, we have all the craziness with UNH, Coinbase, and a handful of these other tickers. So it definitely should be an exciting week. So with that being said, let's jump right into some setups and predictions. A stock that is close on watch right now is SIRI, and it is to the upside. There have been 2 recent big money trades with this one, and it's starting to move up in a pretty exciting way. Looking at the most recent big money trade with the August 15th 20 strike call options coming in at like $445,000. They bought these on May 5th, and the stock has done pretty well since. There was also another big money trade for the 25 strike calls for September 19th of 2025. This happened earlier in February, on February 10th. Either way, looking at this situation here, we are starting to see more momentum build. It is making higher lows as well. It's bouncing pretty strongly off the $19 and $20 levels, and it's definitely on my bullish radar. While I wouldn't be surprised if it popped up tomorrow, this trade is more so of one that can last like a week or two.
Yeah, definitely. I do like Siri in the short term, though. Very good price action. It's starting to come up off the base very well, and I'll keep it in mind with that big money play as well. Could be a decent swing opportunity in my eyes here. With my first play, I'm looking at Plug to the downside. My gosh, Plug just continues to sell off. We can see this poor company. I don't know, Mike. They might get delisted soon. It's getting pretty brutal. 71 cents, but nonetheless, if they end up breaking under their low of day from today, around 70 cents, I'll be watching them down once again. They had a pretty brutal day and brutal morning, of course. This stock has been selling off all week long. They had a bad earnings report as well. So if we see that breakdown, continue watching them to the downside. I hate to put them, throw them under the bus here, but they kind of did it to themselves.
Seriously, yeah, that has been brutal recently with that stock. So either way, keep it close on watch. Another ticker that is definitely on the radar is Robinhood, and it is to the downside. I know I mentioned this one in yesterday's video, and it had a nice opening move to the downside today, but it is definitely still on my bearish radar. In a perfect world, I would like to see the stock get back below that $59.50 area to continue this like short-term downtrend. If it doesn't get back below that area, I'm not going to love this setup, but if it can do that, I definitely do see more opportunity playing the move lower here, and I would definitely say to keep a close eye on that $58 area, which is where it like bottomed off of today.
Yeah, that could be a pretty advantageous setup in the short term. I know a lot of these growth stocks have been pulling back a little bit more. With my next setup, I'm looking at NVIDIA to the upside here. If NVIDIA can end up breaking out above its double top around 136.50, I will continue watching it to the upside. I do like the double top that it's posting there. And of course, the SPY closed pretty strong today. So if we do get some nice bullish price action tomorrow morning, I would definitely think NVIDIA could be one of the Mag 7 stocks that might lead the way a bit more. Either way, in the short term, if it does break 136.50, I will be watching 140 coming up. 140 is going to be a major resistance. It's a big psychological resistance, and it also lines up well on the charts.
All right, good stuff there. And besides that, Tom, let's jump right into today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have Archer Aviation, ACHR, to the upside.
Yeah, if they can break out above $12.25, keep watching them to the upside. This is a beautiful earnings continuation play here.
All right, with the next one, we have Chewy, CHWY, also to the upside.
Yeah, pretty decent recovery. If they can break out above 41.70, just above its high of day, then keep watching it to the upside as well.
And then with the last one, we have Microsoft, MSFT, to the downside.
Yeah, Microsoft closed right around break even today. If they end up breaking beneath $450 even, then keep watching them to the downside. Of course, if the overall market does pull back, this would be a pretty advantageous play.
All right, so keep a close eye on these 3 stocks for tomorrow for potential continuations. As always, have stop losses to protect yourself. You need some sort of risk management plan, especially with volatile day trade style setups like these ones. Holding and hoping is the worst thing any trader can do, so you definitely don't want to do that. And besides that, Tom, we are all clear for today's $1.2 million big money trade. And we are looking at ticker symbol UNH, surprise, surprise. Today, the big money bought a 280 strike call option play that expires on July 18th of 2025. For my advanced traders out there, this is technically a call debit spread where they also shorted the 320 strike call options. Either way, this is a bullish trade where the trader is trying to profit off of this recent crash and for the return back to the upside. Looking at this setup here, UNH has fallen to a historical extent. Basically, this is its worst drop ever since it basically IPO'd back in the 80s, and this drop is just truly mind-blowing in multiple different ways. I would not be surprised to see this trade do well. Of course, no one knows when this stock will bottom in the short term, but I definitely think it's one, worth keeping on the radar, especially all the way through July 18th.
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty crazy big money trade here, Mike. I mean, who's doing this? $1.1 million into the UNH 280 strike calls. It has been getting pretty parabolic to the downside. And, as we look at like UNH's chart and I go back on the daily just a little bit more, it's actually on a pretty decent support. This level that around $250 is pretty huge. There has been a few hits there. And even more importantly, just under there, around 210 has seen a lot of action as well. So if we continue with this volatility, just remember that there will be some volatility probably on some green days back to the upside as well. And if there are some recoveries going on, of course, this big money trader will definitely benefit quite a bit. Of course, it does have a little bit of time out to July 18th, like Mike said. So keep in mind, it might not be a play necessarily for tomorrow, but overall, they're probably looking for a short-term recovery here.
Yeah, no doubt. So either way, keep a close eye on this one. And if you guys are new to the channel, definitely consider obliterating that subscribe button to get our videos recommended to you more often. Every single day, we cover multi-million-dollar big money trades like this one, the most important news, information, chart setups, and basically everything you have to know about the market in around 20 to 25 minutes or less. So definitely consider subscribing. And we also have to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Sal 1982 in the StockedUp trading floor today, who crushed it not only with Tesla calls, but also Tesla put options and a Boeing play as well. So huge shout out to you, Sal. Keep up the great work going forward. And I love to see that adaptability there, trading Tesla in both directions. So that was pretty awesome to see. And there were, a few $1,000s in gains. So huge shout out to you and keep on rolling. Besides that, guys, we only have one more trading day left of the week. Again, keep a close eye on all the stocks we mentioned in tonight's video. There are a lot of stocks in play. The market is at recent highs, and again, it's pretty weird to say this, but we're only around 4% away from a new all-time high. So it should be an exciting end to the week. Thank you all so much for watching, and let's crush it in the market tomorrow.